The Journos is proudly sponsored by Blair Park Commercial Properties. We buy commercial and industrial property and offer rental opportunities for your business. Visit blairparkproperties.co.uk.
Welcome to the Journos on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to come and join the PLZ family. And I'm delighted to say that Hugh McDonald, Graeme McGarry and Gordon Parks with me here in the studio to talk all things football near and far. And the beamy headlines that we'll look at today on the programme is football changing for the better or worse as teams become more reliant on set pieces? Is there a shock in the cards in the Scottish Cup quarterfinals? Get the thoughts of the guys on that. What next for Aberdeen in their search for a manager? Apparently now we have 4 candidates in the running. And can Stephen Robinson stop the St Mirren slide after yet another disappointing defeat against Dundee United up at Tannadice on Tuesday evening? And I thought with the focus on Scottish football, our elite joinery and fire protection quiz is to do with the Old Firm game on Sunday there. How many Scottish players started in the Old Firm game on Sunday? Because that's something that we're going to have to look at as well in our discussions. There's your question. We'll give you the answer by the end of the programme, but if you want to give us your thoughts on that, do you want to have a stab at a number? 3?
I was going to say 3 as well. Yeah.
I can only think of 2 off the top. Oh, wait a minute. 3.
3. Okay, all going for it.
Because I said 3.
All going for 3. Well, you're all going for 3, so we'll give you the answer at the end of the programme. So, listen, I know there are a number of managers who would probably call you and players who would probably frown on our opening topic, but I think it's quite relevant not only for Scottish football, but football as a whole across the globe. When you have a situation where even Ruud Gullit, Henrik Larsson have mentioned that they struggle to watch football now because of the way it's being played. And here in Scotland, we have one of the most competitive situations that we've had in a long time in the Scottish Premiership. But the standard overall is poor. And I hate to be somebody who's condemning your game because managers and players get slightly miffed at that comment, Hugh.
Yeah, there's 2 kind of strands, isn't there? The first strand is football's getting boring again. That's got nothing to do with quality, because that's the quality of those teams is outstanding. I mean, I go to high-end football and I'm amazed now at the technique, the way guys can control the ball, the precision of the passing, the movement. There's nothing wrong with the technique at the elite level of the game. I think it's never been better, frankly. The other strand of the argument which concerns us in Scotland is the diminution of the game, and I think that's inarguable. And I think you can only judge your league against other leagues because you've got to judge it against something. And our coefficient is falling off a cliff. I mean, it's plausible that we'll be, as a nation, a European Conference League outfit, even the champions within a reasonable amount of time. And the fact of the matter is, it's all down to money.
I have to take issue with that. I don't agree. I think if you think that the technical level is as good as it's ever been,
in the top level,
I think there are certain individuals who shine technically, but there's too many run-of-the-mill, recruit for nowhere, and physical players here. And I think it's represented in the stats.
In Scotland, I'm saying Scotland levels. I'm talking about the elite level, the technical levels.
You're talking about the 5 big
Barcelonas and the 5 big leagues. Our technical levels.
And I think the ability general, if you go back to the 90s, the 80s and beyond, people were comfortable with the ball. The ball wasn't an alien thing to them. They were technically very good, and the structure of the game was based on touch and play. But whereas now we see the recruitment, the reliance on physical, and it's relayed in the stats.
That's what I've seen. There's 2 strands. There's a strand of the Barcelona, the Arsenal, Man City, etc., etc. Their technical levels terrific. The problem with them is it's good to watch, and sometimes it's not. Our problem is the technical levels going through the floor, and you can see it. You can see it in my lifetime. I mean, I love these arguments where people come when you know, Celtic or Rangers have a good run, and this people say, oh, how would, you know, maybe under Rodgers Celtic have a good run? How would this Celtic team would give Martin O'Neill's team a good... You go, are you joking? I mean, you're actually joking that this team would give a game to Larsson, Sutton, you know, Hearts and Petrov, Lambert, McNamara. I mean... Come on!
I think one thing we're guilty of, I think, is looking at how the Old Firm do in Europe and using that as a gauge for the standard of the game in Scotland. So the Old Firm are poor in Europe this season on a whole, so the game in Scotland's crap. If the Old Firm get to the Europa League final, one of them does it every now and again. That doesn't mean Scottish football suddenly is brilliant.
No, I don't. But again, I don't agree with you, Graeme, on this point. And the point is this: I don't gauge Scottish football on Celtic and Rangers' performance in Europe. I gauge it on the last 20 years where I've watched Aberdeen's, the Hearts, the Hibs, the Kilmarnock failed miserably.
The media narrative is what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not individuals.
But because we're poor and we can't even get to group stages. You're watching Hearts at times lost to, knocked out by FC Zurich. I mean, for God's sake, there's got to be a blame culture. We've got to look at it and say who's to blame for recruitment, for strategy, tactics, style of play, what they're relying on, the way the managers tell the players to play, and the standard of player we're getting in, to the detriment, I think, of Scottish football players. What we've got is a group of Scottish football players who've been, luckily, some of the better ones have been able to go and ply their trade elsewhere. But right now, I was looking at some of the teams who are playing in the Scottish Premiership. Livingston, I think, are the only team who's played the most Scots. They had 5 in their team against St Mirren the other week there.
Right. So, there's exceptions to the rule here, right? And the one shining light this season has been Falkirk, Motherwell and Hearts. They play with width. They play with a structure which is designed to play on the front foot and get at teams early. They've got recruited players that can do that. Look across the board. It's no Mark Central. It's recruitment. If you recruit consistently from lower league in England, the lower league in England you do become. And we've got a lot of teams now in Scotland at our top flight who are League 2 in England. And people will howl and protest and say we're better than that. We're not better than that. We are what we recruit. If you go and recruit players for Atherley and consistently do it over a period, you become Atherley.
I think perhaps that's an interesting point, because I think there is a reason to be positive a wee bit about how the direction is going. Because I hope, obviously I've been watching Motherwell all season. It's the best Motherwell team I've ever seen.
But what's the reason for that?
Because the manager's got a different approach.
John McGlynn.
That's what I mean.
Drills
John McGlynn as well.
Get forward. I want you to go and be offensive immediately.
That's what I mean. That's right. What I mean. If you go to Aberdeen,
do that, Hearts do that, right? And look at the rewards that they get from that.
Look at Aberdeen.
The directives coming from managers in this league.
Yeah.
And I can look at the top of my head and think St Mirren immediately, right?
Yeah.
It's coming from the manager.
But that's what I mean. That's what the hope is. That's what the hope is.
Also have to say this. There was a white paper released last summer, and the Guild at the SFA identified the issues. There has to be proactive solutions to this. At the end of this season, which will be, it's a exhilarating, thrilling season, has to be stopped and say, why is it so bad?
I'm hoping that clubs will look at what's happened at Motherwell and what's happened at Falkirk, though, and they'll go, right, we need a manager in that profile. And I think that's what's happening, because you look at Aberdeen, they're willing to wait to the summer to get a guy in who could maybe transform them and play the kind of football that these two teams are playing. And I hope that other clubs in the league will do that. They'll look at these clubs and go, we want a bit of that. Hopefully the standard will come up as a result.
I don't think they will, Hugh. Listen, we've had, 2 think tanks? And the overall standard of the game is such that we've had the SPFL suggesting that it goes down to a 10-team league. I mean, how ridiculous is that situation when you allow accountants, basically, to run football and get to the situation where you say, well, yes, the drive is to try and bring more money in, but we're not bringing quality in. We're signing a lot of players that basically are offering nothing to the game, and the style that the managers are adopting, because they are strangled into surviving in the Scottish Premiership. So while, I get excited going to see Motherwell. Yeah. I'm going to see Motherwell regularly when I can, and I've watched them probably more than any other side. And it's an absolute joy, Hugh, because you know what you're getting. You're getting a team. Dundee United on Saturday, I'm thinking, it's not if Motherwell are going to score, it's when they're going to score, because they played them off the park. And last night I watched Dundee United against St Mirren, And I thought to myself, oh my God, this would get football stopped. The pitch was terrible. The way they went about their business is terrible. It's, you know, at one point Dundee United's most threatening situation is Will Ferry throwing something 40 yards into the box.
But the whole thing is dominated by a fear culture, though. And the fear culture is don't get out of this league. Because if you get out of this league, it's real big problems. It's existential problems. You've got to change staff. You've got to do everything, you know.
Do you think they're going to adopt what Graham's saying?
I think it's difficult to adopt that because it's a fear thing.
I don't think, Hugh, this has shown that you don't have to be that way. Like, you can be in the top 6 and you can play good football with what we would look at as limited football.
Yeah, I think it does show that in a way, but it's also, I can see why players say, so let's play it safe, let's get, you know, guys, journeymen in from such and such and such and such. The thing about the fear thing as such is, like, everybody talks about Motherwell, and rightly so, but the McGlynn story is probably the better story, and that he's taken them up 2 leagues, right?
He's also done it with Scottish players.
And he's also done it with players that were in the 2 leagues. Now that is astonishing. That was astonishing.
Dylan Tate made an interesting point. I was at the game in Falkirk and he was talking about technical and tactical, everything in harmony. Brilliant. A manager standing at the side of the park, having instructed his players throughout the week how he wants to set them out. Dylan Tate said that consistency of squad togetherness, that not turning things over constantly, and you can see the reward. Patience, with a manager with philosophy, entertain, more importantly, play to your strengths.
I also think as well, if players are told to go and play out for second balls and play balls into the channels, they switch off very quickly for that, because it becomes a game of chance and it's rotten to watch. And listen, I totally agree. We've been watching so much of that over the last few years, but I'm hoping, I mean maybe I'm over-optimistic.
And by the way,
I think it's going to turn.
I stand corrected. Falkirk had more players Scottish.
Yeah.
You know, I think they had about 6 or 7.
But the thing about this, you know, lump it up for second balls and all that, you know, you'd think some chairman will be sitting and saying, right, we could do a John McGlynn, we could do an Askew or whatever. But a lot of the guys on they're saying, yeah, but is it going to be a Stephen Glass? Is it going to be a Nancy? Is it going to be a Russell Martin? Is it going to, you know, there's guys that have succeeded in this new style, but there's guys that have heavily failed. And one failure for example, one failure for, see, Askew hadn't worked out at Motherwell, and Motherwell now were where Kilmarnock are. There'd be a lot of trembling lips in Motherwell, because you would be saying to yourself, this again is existential. If we go down to the Championship, you know, we've got this infrastructure that we're building, a really good academy, blah, 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 blah. It's really vital that we. So I've got a bit. I would love to see what you're promoting, but I see the trepidation that some chairman might have.
Yeah, but the chairman are to blame as well.
Oh yeah, because they're voting for the block. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get to a situation where a chairman basically hires a manager and says, "What's your ethos?" Our ethos is just keep us in the division, and then you start to see. I mean, again, I go back to what you were talking about here about it's not just a 100% condemnation here, because there are mitigating circumstances. We had Stephen Robinson in here and he basically said, yeah, I'll play 3 Scots, I'll put 3 youngsters in, I'll lose 3 games, they want me sacked. And now, you know, we'll get on to St Mirren, but if you go on a run where you've got, you know, 1 win in 14, 2 wins in 15 or whatever, you're under real pressure because this league dictates that.
So the status quo, and it's depressing to say it, the status quo has got no sign of changing at any moment, right? It's not going to change in the summer, it's not going to change beyond that. To let the league breathe, you need to expand it. It's not going to happen, we know that, and we'll have the same conversation in 5 years' time.
Yeah, the other thing about it, Graeme, is we're 18th in the coefficient table now, and not next season, but the season after. Boy, our teams are going to face one hell of a lot of hurdles even to get to group stages. I
done a piece with a guy, if you see him on Twitter, Scotland's coefficient he's called. And,
what age is he?
Gavin, he's about 35, something like that, yeah. I think.
Does a great
apologies,
job.
Gavin, if I'm wrong. But
no, does a great job. Does he get out?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I spoke to him for his mother's basement. I'm only kidding.
I saw him in Silence of the Lambs.
He's a lovely lad, like Chianti. But no, he's so he was spelling it out, and it was grim. It was grim. You know, after this season, you know, you're basically, if you're in 4th place, you're not getting in. If you're in 3rd place, you're playing 4 qualifiers to even get to the place where 2nd place is now. It's like crazy, absolutely crazy. So it's going to get more difficult. and the teams, as you say, the top teams, the levels going down.
Yeah, and
so where is that going to
The
leave us?
systems that we play, right? Good teams. I remember Motherwell went to Derry. Was it Derry?
No, it was Sligo.
Sligo, and I watched both games and I went to Sligo. We've got too many teams that don't trust their teammates and don't play into tight areas and give safe possession. Teams in Europe bring the ball about because they have a different mindset and a trust and confidence, and they come here and routinely demonstrate how to play in tight areas, how to get out of it, comfortable with the ball, a technique level that we don't have. That's why we're struggling. It's simple.
Well, wait a minute. I have to take again. There's always an exception to the rule. This is not a Motherwell team with Busquets, Xavi, and
I know that,
and Iniesta.
See, I think in a manager, there's two things. If you were looking to employ a manager, you say, what is his style, right? And you look at it, there's a definitive style, you look at it. But I think almost the more important thing is, say, what does he do with what he's got? He's got Stephen O'Donnell playing like Cafu. He's got John McGinn playing like a combination of Baresi and Dunga.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
Paul McGinn.
Paul McGinn. And you say to yourself, I watched them against Celtic, and I've watched Scottish football 8 different decades, and this was the first time I would say even this century, you know, from a good, when you could go and watch Celtic against Dundee United and Aberdeen in the 80s and Celtic were taking a pasting. I think that's the first time I've seen Celtic outside, playing Rangers in Scotland, taking a pasting.
Yeah.
They were just outplayed. Now,
Here's the point I'm trying to make. It's important. Trust them to take the ball, right? Trust them. If you don't want the ball, you're not in my team. Motherwell are crying, a team that craves the ball, give me it, circulating it, turning it, but offensively, right? Whereas the Motherwell teams from the past and others, when they go and play against Celtic, they don't try and take a touch channel. Stephen O'Donnell's launching it. It's the mindset that's been installed by a manager whose philosophy is about instilling confidence and trust throughout the team, and not just the team, the squad, because they're changing it week in, week.
Yeah.
The difference is the approach, and it's simple. Are you launching it into corners and playing off second balls? Are you playing for percentages and set pieces, maybe scoring on a corner kick? Or are you actually going to try and play?
Yeah, I wonder if, we talk a lot about the technical level, and there's no doubt it has gone down in terms of the players in the league, but I just wonder how much the coaches have to take a bit of responsibility for all this as well on this team, because there are guys like Stephen O'Donnell.
Play instruction,
in
right?
the summer,
That's what they do.
Right? See in the summer, I would have said Stephen O'Donnell was done. Absolutely done. And he's a lovely fella, and I really wouldn't have wanted him to leave Motherwell that way. But he looked completely done, completely shot last season. He comes in this season, and he's been trusted to take the ball. And honestly, if you saw him the Saturday night game when Motherwell beat St Mirren 5-0, he was sensational. Absolutely, he's chipping the ball over guys' heads, he's playing cross-field passes.
there's one went down the wing and he did the Cafu thing.
Incredible.
Well, at the start of the season,
You just wouldn't have thought he was capable of that, but he's been trusted to do it.
at the start of the season, I spoke to him, and he said to me, "The manager says I'm not in his plans," and I said, "Well, so," and he went, "Maybe," and he admitted it at the weekend when somebody was chatting to him, and I said, "So what?" And he said, "What do you mean?" He says, I think I might need to get a new club. I says, "Are you off your nut?" And he said to me, "What do you mean?" I said, "Sit in. Somebody's going to get injured. You're better than Katrumbis." I said, "You just got to force your way into this side. This side's a joy to play." And this was before the transfer window. And and after we finished chatting, he's probably get advice from 1,000,001 people, but he did sit in. He did wait for his turn, and he embraced what he's telling him. And it's what you're saying is the fact that the manager has said to them, "This is the way I want you to play. You're going to make mistakes. Live with it. As long as you stick to the code that I'm preaching, then we'll go with it."
You saw that at Hearts, the first game against Hearts, 3-0 up, could have been 4-5. Then they're hanging on for a draw.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Hugh,
that ethos.
And that was the early days.
That was early days.
massive positive slant here, right? This has been the one season that ambition has been taking over ability, ambition over ability, right? You go to Edinburgh, as we do, you speak to managers and players, the glass ceiling. That ambition has been lifted to a realistic level that clubs like Hibs and Hearts now, Motherwell, Falkirk, have shattered that glass ceiling. So ambition within these clubs is shown, right? If Stephen O'Donnell didn't follow the manager's instruction, right, everybody in their own job, whatever line of work they're in, wants to be told, listen, you've got the potential to be great, you can do this, play your strengths, here's what you're good at, can you go and do that? How does it make you feel? Makes you feel 10 times better.
Hasn't happened yet.
Motherwell are a club that feel 10 times better because they've got a manager implanting that mindset into their players. Everybody wants to be told.
Yeah, but Jock Stein used to say, never ask a player to do something he's not capable of doing. And what he's done is he's simplified it to them. You're already a professional footballer. I don't want you to try and launch it. Terry Butcher used to launch it with Motherwell. What he would say is to this team, triangles, play short, somebody come and make yourself available for him, somebody give him an option so that he doesn't need to rely on this long 40, 50-yard ball, which is a percentage game then. So he's minimised the percentage of failure by everybody helping each other out. So I think that's to his credit. The other problem we've got, and I think there's research in the last 24 hours released on the basis that we're now the country with the most headers.
Yeah. So I spoke to a Dutch coach and I said, what is the difference when you go and play against Scottish teams? He says, Scottish teams, they always give the ball back to you. Yeah. Scottish teams always give the ball back to you. See when foreign teams come to here in Europe, you can't get the ball.
How many times have you heard that this year? When people say, my God, it was like watching a top European team when they're talking about Falkirk or Motherwell.
Yeah.
And it shows you it's that shock value of a team actually trying to keep the ball rather than just humping it. The quicker it goes that way, the quicker it comes.
By the way, you can pay a fortune for coaches, right, and you can get them all in. It's a lot of rubbish. Because it's as you say, Kilmarnock, Motherwell, Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs in Europe have been absolutely appalling for decades.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of this pseudo coaching and this talk. There has to be substance. You have to change it.
That's what I mean. The approach, I think, hopefully, in the coming years, will benefit Scottish football in Europe because it'll be more of a similar style to what the rest of Europe is playing, rather than this. You go from this shock of playing 50-50s and high balls to then coming against a team
that's a revolution.
Zipping the ball about.
It's a revolution that's required. And it's not. It is the rulers that have to go and allow the game to breathe.
I think you're looking for utopia there. I don't think people will embrace it. I don't think this league
Maybe not, but I
allows you
just
to
think,
embrace
what's
it.
the alternative? What's the alternative? We're stuck in caveman times and we end up, even more of a backwater than we are already. I think we've got to give this a go, and I just hope there's enough people in boardroom out there that look at the examples of the teams that are doing it very well and think, I want a wee slice of that.
You said
Neil
alternative.
Doncaster is one of the highest earners in the Scottish game.
Yeah.
Right. It needs somebody to show leadership and try and get heads together and try and do something radical because a revolution is required and it's not going to be easy. But how depressing is that for you to say that it's not going to change?
Well, listen, Graham's just mentioned a word there. What's the alternative? That's not the word. It's what's the solution? And the solution is that, and Neil Doncaster is basically a figurehead who puts across the views of the collective. So he's in the job to advise, but he's not in the job to direct.
His hands are tied. I get that, right.
So the thing is, what's the solution? And the solution long term is collectively, for me, chairmen and owners of clubs need to get round with the SPFL and say, right, to improve this, we need to try and embrace more Scottish players. We need to make sure with the SFA that there's a platform and a grassroots level, that there's a pathway. And over and above that, we need to change the structure of the league. You need to take a long-term view. But right now, Neil Doncaster's coming out, to his credit, because that's what he's paid for. And he said, we've managed to get these sponsors. We've sold extra games to Premier Sports. We've managed to get Sky in a longer-term deal. BBC are now buying Scotland games. BBC are now picking up the slack in the Championship. We're bringing more money into the game. What are you moaning about?
Yeah, well, from his point of view, you can see that's great. I mean, I had a wee smile there when you were, because we've had this conversation, Peter, since this programme started, even before this programme started. The whole thing about Scottish football that people don't realise is people always think Scottish football is a thing, right? And it's not. It's not. It's a fragmented. People say, we should be doing the best for Scottish football. Every chairman will be saying, no, we should be doing the best for my team.
Yes.
Because that's what he's saying. He's there to protect that, the custodian of that. So go on this, what is good for Scottish football might not be good for Motherwell, might not be good for Airdrie or whatever. So that's a big problem. I think the way to look at it is, if we wanted to know where we should be going, imagine just sitting down and saying, right, there is no Scottish football at the moment. We're creating Scottish football. How would we create it? How would we go about this? And I'll tell you, a 12-team league with that voting system wouldn't be the top of it.
See when you talk about
Bringing in players from League One in England wouldn't be top of it. Having performance schools closed, having a pathway obstructed wouldn't be part of it. So we've got to look at that blank sheet, I think, and say,
when did the
where to go.
SFA then take, you talk about solutions, when do they actually step up and provide alternative solutions? And when do they apply pressure? I know they're scrapping the performance skills.
But they're just...
The performance skills have been an absolute disaster, right? Pro Youth, Club Academy Scotland, disaster. Somebody has to pull the levers. Somebody must be able to go and influence. This is not rocket science.
Yeah, but I'll offer just again, trying to offer a modicum of balance here to that is quite simply, they must be doing something right in their eyes, because they'll say, right, well, we've more than a few players now going to play in European clubs in the top 5. Yeah. We've qualified for 2 European Championships and a World Cup. You know, so there's a balance there as well that they will look at and say they've sold the rights to Hampden. The naming rights, they've got money in. They've sold the rights back to the BBC, which I think was a really good move, getting it free for everybody to watch. So you have to strike a balance. But is the balance towards accountancy, or is it towards the greater good of the game, as Gordon is rightly pointing out?
Well, I'm worried about. I know Parsy's got obviously strong views in the performance skills there, and they weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But what we're going to do now, because you mentioned Andy Gould at the SFA, who was behind all this, and Chris, forget his second name now, who was behind it. Both those guys are now leaving the SFA on the back of this. I don't know what the reasons for. I'm not saying that's the reason they're leaving, but they're away. So who's now coming into that void to fill that gap and actually come up with an alternative? Because at the moment, the only alternative is cooperation systems, which I've heard very mixed reports about.
Here's an alternative. We're going to get the months getting warmer. It's going to be summertime. There's no kids playing football.
Yeah.
There's none. You won't see them. They'll be in structured academies and they'll be getting the game coached out of them. And I hate to say it, it's very simple. If we don't have kids playing football on the grass and playing and enjoying with their pals, developing the technique, which you only get between, you can learn how to pass the ball and have game knowledge at the age of 13, 14, 15, you can get told by a coach. See, younger than that, your technique, your touch, the way you play, that's how it's embedded into your ability levels.
Is that
you don't play anymore. So here's your alternative. See the investment that they put into the performance skills and all that. Provide an opportunity to return it back to give the kids the game back to go and play with their pals and put the money into organising that level of it for fun.
Yeah. Mike Mulroney's big thing is throwing the locks off, isn't it? That's the phrase he uses to get facilities. But my big concern about getting rid of the performance skills is exactly what you said there, Parksy, was that they go into these club academies and they're playing structured football there, and they're losing that kind of joy, the spark for the game, because that is what they're proposing to do at the moment, is to support the clubs in their own academies rather than having their own sort of set style of play. And I just worry that it's all going to become very fragmented again.
If you knew the stats about the depreciation of amateur football in this country, juvenile football, boys club football, they can't sustain themselves. So one that do and thrive have turned it into a business model by taking direct debits off of parents. They've got chief executives. You have to give a recognition to the fact that academies are kidding parents on. Yeah. My kids went to St Ninians High School. The amount of kids that get sold a dream through that. Yeah. I know you get your Kieran Tierney's, your Anthony Ralston's, that they get a career out of it. But the percentage level of kids that are discarded after that, it's astonishing, right? Stop it.
The amount of players who actually said that their whole upbringing was, they maybe played for their school team in the morning, played for another amateur team, and then maybe would go and play for Rangers, Celtic and Motherwell in a structured situation, but with the ability to actually go and essentially play street football. Yep. They had that ability to work on their touch. It didn't seem like work. It just seemed like I'm out enjoying myself. And by the way, I'm playing with my mates for, Jervey Boys Club. I'm going to play with Motherwell, the youths, and then I'm going to go and play somewhere else. So they were getting that regular game. Some of it not unbelievably structured, whereas now we've got this structure. Listen, we sometimes who are guilty of being insular in our thinking, but even on the broader scale, we're still in entertainment. We still want people to watch it. We still want people to rave about skill and the way managers are telling us to play. We've been very, very complimentary about Jens Bertolaskau and John McGlynn. But I look and I hear the words of Ruud Gullit and I hear the words of Henrik Larsson saying, don't really like watching a lot of football now because it's boring. You know, they're relying on set pieces. The stat that came out there from the English Premier League, 4 teams, including, of course, the likes of Chelsea, Crystal Palace. These people are relying on, like Crystal Palace, 50% of their 30 goals have come from dead ball situations. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's not. You're looking, you're saying to yourself, where's the creativity? Sometimes I actually watch Big Match Revisited on ITV4 just to see. By the way, well, it's a paddy field, right? The rain, it's a mud bath, and Jimmy Greaves' first touch is immaculate, and his second one, he's passed it into the back of the net. I'm thinking, this is a joy.
Criticising Silence of the Lambs, put the lotion in the basket again.
Yeah, honestly, that's the thing. They all had their touch.
But the credible thing about football in my lifetime is the way that at the top level, technique's impeccable. So if you go to a top level game, it just stuns you. You know, like if you go to a La Liga game, and I've watched football all my life now, and guys are just guys are firing the ball at each other, and they're just taking it in. But everything is rigid. Everything's a pattern. It's got like rugby. They've got like what we call exit strategies for the final third. This is how we get out of a corner. You know, see if we win the ball in grid E, this is how we get out of it by passing and all that. And it's beautiful to watch in one sense, but very boring.
Here's a nostalgic story, Hugh, right, that you can relate to, right? The great Stenhousemuir team with Terry Christie, who beat Aberdeen, did magnificent things for the budget they had. I was talking to Bobby Barr from Hamilton, played with Stenny. He says Terry Christie would work 2 nights a week. Half an hour of each night would be corner kicks, set pieces. He said it'd be freezing. After he'd worked in the set pieces, after half an hour, you'd go and train, but you were frozen. You'd seized up. Set piece coaching has a massive place in the game. But look at that Stenhousemuir team. I could name guys in that team that were technically fantastic.
It does annoy me, this rise of the set piece coach. I understand it completely, and I do like the whole marginal gains thing and all that, and it's so important in the game. But see when you see these guys marching out to the front of the dugout,
lovely, isn't it? I love that.
They just chuck a cross in, and a big guy goes up and headers into the net, and the boy's like, I told him.
But this is another thing about modern football as well. See if you go down, I'm lucky enough, I go around the world watching modern football, and I would go down to England regularly. And I always remember a couple of years ago, I went down to watch Aston Villa under Gerrard play Crystal Palace under Vieira. And Crystal Palace came out the tunnel. And I had a seat next to the tunnel, and I watched them, and you'd have thought, you went...
Basketball players?
Yeah, these guys, I mean, honestly, Peter, these guys were huge. Even dwarfing all at the McGinns of Aston Villa. And what they did in that game, Crystal Palace, was physically beat up Aston Villa. Not just at set pieces, at second balls, at duels, at headers. And they were just... I mean, they brought on Edward, and Edward looked like,
Jimmy Johnson.
The black Jimmy Johnson. Come on, see, who was this wee guy coming off? I mean, they were huge.
Yeah, but for every Crystal Palace, there is a situation where, and again, I go back, I was pulling out a bit of memorabilia, and I saw a programme where I'd gone to the Champions League final on my own, which was quite unusual for me because my wife says sometimes I'm scared to get into a pub on my own. But I went over to Rome, Manchester United against Barcelona. You would have looked at that side and you say, wait a minute, you can't play football. And Iniesta, you're too small. Xavi, he's peace. And Messi, and they're all. But by the way, brilliant, great to watch, an absolute joy. But if Ruud Gullit is turning around and saying the football is not great, I mean, this is the first season, and it's quite unusual because I know Tam McManus has mentioned that he doesn't watch English football because I was brought up in that area of Match of the Day where I loved English football and loved watching Liverpool in the day. I crave for that type of technical skill, the ability to watch that type of football. But this season is the first time that I have I've maybe watched about 5 English Premier League games.
I'm much older than you. I can remember when we didn't have live games on television, even a glint sports night and a Wednesday night, if you've got a glint of English highlights, can I stay up just for 7 minutes of West Brom versus... English football was huge. I watched English football when Sky came out. I was the first one in the queue. Give us that, Loved it. And it's funny you should say this is the first season where I've gone,
But see
Absolutely,
see when your son watched these games, there'd be individuals on that team sheet worth watching. I saw Alex Ferguson talking about Zola, right? People that you would actually tune in. You can put a Premiership English game on now, Premier League game, and look at the team sheet and go switch off.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what we've all... I think this season more than anything, and I don't know if it's because we don't have anybody involved in the European context as well, Graeme, but I could count in my hand how many Champions League games that I've actually sat and watched the whole game.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't help sometimes if it's moved on. I'm not critical of TNT because they bought the rights. That's the nature of the game now. But it's not something that I'm regularly watching at the moment, you know, because maybe we're not involved. I don't know, but there's less appeal to it. And if Ruud Gullit is saying it, my God, if Henrik Larsson's turning around and saying some of these games are dire to watch, then you're actually saying to yourself, where's it going? Will they embrace what you're hoping they embrace? Certainly from our point of view in Scotland, I don't see it. I think there needs to be a change. What would you like to see? I know it's difficult.
I'd like to see everyone like Graeme. I think Graeme made terrific points. I maybe it's just because I'm old and cynical. I just don't. I would love to see things like a bigger league, because that gives you can breathe in that league. You can say, well, Ascu's not working out. Say he didn't work out, you know, and all those draws turned into defeats, and it just. But Motherwell stay. We say, well, you know, we'll give them next season as well. So it gives everybody a bit of time to breathe. So I like a bigger league. I'd like a designated pathway. I'd like football for all. I would like the Scottish Government to say, not out their sports budget, but out their health budget, saying, right, you know, the locks are coming off. You've got PE, you're going to have mandatory football in the schools, but it's not going to be coached. It's a ball. It's, you know, my granddaughter started playing football out the back, but she loves it. It's going to be that. And this is where it's difficult, but it'll never happen because it'll be a restraint in trade. And UEFA won't wear it, never mind the clubs. You have to have a certain amount of Scottish players, and not just in the matchday squad on the park, but that's never going to happen.
You only have to look at COVID to see exactly, even with voting rights and even with basically some people on a WhatsApp group, how everything is about self-interest. Listen, it is one of those topics that is taking up near enough 60% of the programme. So that tells you how passionate everybody feels about it. Give us your view. What do you think? What would you like to see change? And are you worried about the state of the game? Do you think maybe Graeme is caught up in the Wizard of Oz and all that colourful projection that he hopes everybody embraces? Yes.
Right. Falkirk and Motherwell and Hearts have proven that. I've watched the games this season. It's looking at rain hitting the window. If you have the will to put your ambitions higher, and you bring in players that you can mould and trust them, you get something better.
Okay. Just before we talk about the quarterfinals, I thought I'd talk about Dave Cormack gave an interview. I think it was to Michael Grant. And he was talking about the search for a manager. Jimmy Tillene sacked on January the 4th. Peter leaving, once again in charge. The frontrunner was apparently Eric Horneland. Clearly it's either a family issue or health, and he wants to take up a job in the summer, whether that's Aberdeen or not. Suddenly, from it being one person, suddenly we're told there are 4 candidates. One of them is Sandro Schwartz in this shortlist. Meanwhile, Aberdeen have brought Tony Docherty back. They've got Ian Birchnell as the first team coach. Darren Mowbray's come back as the head of recruitment. And Lutz Pfannenstiel still hasn't appointed a manager. I think, as Dave Cormack, I'm using his words, it's been an embarrassment. And I think they've absolutely, the word is not complacent. I think what they've done is they've actually abdicated the responsibility to their season ticket holders on the ambition of trying to get into the top 6. They've just basically said, well, we're not getting a manager, and we're going to let it run on beyond 50 days, heading to 60 days.
And it could have been worse without the implosions at St Mirren and the absolutely desolate state of Livingston, where they seem to be out of that playoff thing. So instead of looking up to top 6, they were having a wee kick over their shoulder to goodness gracious, we don't want to get in a playoff place. It has been. It's been almost unconscionable what they've done. You know, and as Cormac made it clear, you could have forgiven some of it if it was strategy. If it was right, fine, we're going to be brave here. We're going to be almost defiant, and we're going to wait and get the right man. But when he's coming out with words like embarrassment and things like that, it shows it wasn't a strategy. It shows that this is the reacting to events. As I say, they'll get a manager, obviously, and they'll probably get one pretty soon, I think. But it hasn't reflected well on what's going up there at all.
Totally agree.
What that man said is an embarrassment. So you're not a serious club if you go about your business like that, and it compounds it. You see the teams in Edinburgh doing so well. I think the powerhouse that Aberdeen were are now no longer that, and if you get a dressing room that doesn't, it's been led by temporary measures. You'll behave in that kind of fashion.
It's also the way it's handled, Parsi, isn't it? Like, you've got the guy Sandro Schwartz coming to the game tonight. All the cameras will be on him. What if he doesn't take the job? What if it's then another 2 months and it's somebody else? And then the questions will be, oh, well, you weren't the first choice because Sandro was up at the game. You know, it's just the way it's been handled, I think.
It's not as if it's an isolated incident here, Graeme, because they've gone through managers willy-nilly, relentlessly. They've got it wrong consistently.
Willy-nilly's the only manager they haven't had.
Let's hope he's Danish.
He was a Celtic manager, was he not?
who almost played for Carlisle. Listen, they need to get their act together. That's one thing.
I tell you another thing at Aberdeen that makes it crisis up there as well is Hearts. Hearts makes it a crisis at Aberdeen, because Aberdeen fans could always be consoled by saying, right, we're never going to get the 80s. We're never going to win another league. Celtic Rangers are made, and that was an accepted view in Scottish football. Celtic Rangers are untouchable. They will never be touched. If Hearts win the league, there'll be several explosions across Scotland, and Pat Nevin notwithstanding, there'll be an explosion in Leith. But there'll be reverberations in Aberdeen as well, because saying, why not us? Why not us?
They spent a relative fortune as well on the squad.
They backed the manager, and they backed the manager at a time when, if they had a bit of backbone about them, they should have sacked the manager long before they sacked him.
It was almost that they were a victim of their previous approach, because they so desperately didn't want to sack him. That they held on to him too long. It was like,
absolutely. Gordon, on that point, were you, as we get ready for the Scottish Cup quarterfinals and take two Rangers Celtic at Ibrox, were you impressed with what you witnessed at that game?
Really impressed with Rangers. 45 minutes, absolutely energised by a brilliant atmosphere. The support really, since the Hearts game, we talk about a Rangers fan base that now believe they can win the title. I don't think they did, but the Hearts game was really the catalyst for that. Really aggressive, really meaty, really intelligent, looking like a pedigree striker. They've got their foot in Celtic's throat after 45 minutes. Really impressive. Celtic, I mean, the stranglehold that Rangers had in the middle of the park. Talk about second ball stats. Rangers won most of them. Flip, the absolute transformation was astounding. I don't think anybody saw a way back for Celtic, but you have to admire that character. In the end of the game, you're really looking Celtic look as if they're the team that's going to win it. Did I think the quality was great? I thought there was 2 moments of absolute brilliance from the one individual. Apart from that, it was 2 teams who don't look like champions, to be honest. One team that can't hold away a lead, which champions should be able to do when they're in that spot. Another team depending on last-minute antics. That doesn't make champions.
Yeah, what were the 2 moments of brilliance that you thought? Chermiti?
2 goals.
Yeah.
Both. Opportunism in one of them, and the absolute acrobatic ingenuity to do a Scott McTominay was brilliant.
I think the transformation easily, Graeme, I could attribute to Martin O'Neill's team's second half performance was quite simply taking a leaf out of Motherwell's book, because quite simply if Callum McGregor's got a partner that he can play passes out to, then suddenly they're a different animal completely. You know, I attribute Elliot Watt's supreme confidence in this system down to the fact that he's got Fadinger and Eli Just offering him an out ball consistently from the back to middle to front. Once Hatate came on, different game, wasn't it?
I know, I've not seen Hatate play like that for a long time. I've not seen Celtic play like that for a long time, that they did in that second half. As much as Parsy's right, the quality in the game wasn't brilliant. I at least thought in the second half, Celtic were more like the Celtic that you know. They had the ball, getting it down, passing it through the midfield, getting it wide. It was, you know, almost like watching a throwback to maybe like an Ange team. No, I'm not saying they were that level, but at least the philosophy was there. And that performance for Hatate, I don't know where he pulled that from because he's been hopeless all year. But yeah, you've got to give massive credit to Martin O'Neill and his backroom staff for doing that. And I think you've also got to look at Danny Rule and say, why did it take so long to react to it?
That changes the dynamic for Sunday though, because the lessons learned, and it's been bluntly learned, so they know if you're going to set yourself properly against this poor Rangers team, you'll get some joy, as they did once he changed it.
Do you think he starts the second half team on Sunday? He's got to do that, isn't he?
Clearly it worked. Again, let's not complicate it, yes.
Yeah. And then
He's got the complication of a game in routine though.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that point, Hugh, I wonder what way he does approach it. Does he actually say, right, okay, it is the same team that finished the second half? Because if anything, you know, Martin deserves the credit for what they did in the second half, but he got his team wrong. And you know, I did mention that Amadou just looked completely out of it. Oxlade-Chamberlain, game passed him by. So he's got a big dilemma, and Danny Rule's got a big dilemma because he's clearly aware of the fact that they're not going to be able to do what they did in that first half.
Yeah. I think Martin's a manager that will not... If you had some other manager, younger manager, they'd be sitting at the moment, and they definitely would, they'd be out with the figures of the what I call the sat-nav, how far have they run, and you know, well, they were in the red zone there now. Martin O'Neill is a guy that's been kind of embedded in football tradition, and his tradition will be, we go to Pittodrie, we play the best team, right, and we go to Ibrox, then we play the best team again. He's not going to be a man to rotate. You know, I think if you see in, you'll see guys coming off the bench. I think there was lessons learned that Hatate, when he's Hatate, is a top-class player. I mean, the English Premier League clubs were looking at Hatate at one point.
So how does that change the narrative then for...
Well,
because do you start Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's his...
No, I don't think he's
signing?
No, I don't think he does that.
Do you start Amadou, who's again a recruit?
No, I think he goes to what... I mean, the interesting thing for me on Sunday was... When Celtic were needing a goal, they were playing Maida at number 9. Now, they bought 17 number 9s this season. You know, there's a job lot of fire sale in number 9s there. You know, Cavan, I mean, a lot of them injured, admittedly, but you see yourself, where's Cavan Charry? The great one for me is Iniacho. I mean, if you're a Celtic fan, you want him back in the team, because even when he's not fit, and by God, he wasn't fit any time, so he had the touch and finish of a Premier League striker, and he changed the dynamic of the team because he could hold up and play off.
And it's the result of sticking plaster recruitment, and
exactly.
That's all it is.
It's just who are these guys?
And on the flip side of that, I have to say, from a positive point of view, and he does look different in big games, but I think Chermiti, for Rangers, looks a player because he gets service.
Because he's got a partner, Peter, as well. I think that's a massive thing. Like when he was up front with Nadiri, old-fashioned, Mike Bassett, 4-4-2, and they overpowered Celtic. And when he had a partner, he looked like prime Ronaldo. When Nadiri tired and went off, he looked like the same plodding striker that can't play up front on his own. And I think there's a massive... I've never seen such a drop-off in a guy when he's asked to do that. He can't do that role. When he's got a partner, that's how you get the best out of each other.
How do you see it going?
I think it will be similar to last Sunday. I think Rangers will try and come out and blast out the blocks. How long they can sustain that for, and if Danny Rowe's got a plan B for when they run out of puff, that's going to be the key. But I think it could go all the way. Penalty kicks a lot.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not.
From
our point of view.
Any chance you can put a shift in? Is there any chance whatsoever?
Ambition over ability, I've told you.
Yes, absolutely. That sums it up perfectly. I think it's going penalties, Hugh.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it's going penalties, and I've again, only due to the home advantage, I've swayed to Rangers.
Yeah, that would be my. I think one of the great lessons of Scottish football this season is Rangers and Celtic can't be trusted, and that is why. And Hearts fans, this sounds like, you know, Ouija sour grapes, and it's not. It's why there is a title race, is because the number of points acquired by Celtic and Rangers or particularly Celtic have won consecutively, is abysmally low to them. I mean, they're 10 to 15 points off a run of the mill season. You're saying to yourself, you cannot trust them. So everything's in the lap of the gods.
I think it's what a wee point about Sunday is if it does go to penalties, Rangers definitely have the edge because Jack Butler's record has been unbelievable, and you don't get a rebound. And then
strangely, the only time his record hasn't been good is in a penalty shootout against Celtic when he didn't save any of the 5.
Let's just stop talking about penalty kick shootouts, right? Celtic will win it by a couple.
We're willing this into existence.
You're going for Celtic?
I think Celtic.
It's a 1 o'clock kick-off. What are you bothered about?
I know.
Penalty kicks? I can see if it was
Exactly.
9 o'clock in Lisbon or something like that, or Seville. It's 1 o'clock in Glasgow.
You'll be back in time for
Sunday
the
roast.
chase on Dave.
You'll be back in time for Five Guys. And
Yeah. Try not to get us all back to you, will you? You've gone for Rangers, I've gone for Rangers.
I think Rangers run penalties,
Yeah, okay. Of the others, all the other teams in the quarterfinals, they're all going yippee because the percentage chance of getting to a final suddenly has increased with these two Glasgow Giants head-to-head. Falkirk Dundee United, who is the first one on the Friday. Some of the times of the kick-offs is just...
But if you take the money, you've got it.
Yeah, I know.
I never complain. You can't complain about it if you're selling your game to television. Tell them the golden rule. Them that has the gold makes the rules. So you can't complain. Friday night, I think Friday night's a great night for Falkirk v Dunfermline. I mean, I might even go.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing though. I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, I can only see one winner.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
At home, Falkirk against Dundee United. Dundee United are poor.
Yep, a bit.
I mean, I watched the league game recently, Falkirk versus Dundee United, and Dundee United won, and
I was there.
it burst my cooting actually, but 3-2. But I think there was a red card, obviously, a controversial one that helped Dundee United. But I actually thought they were all right in the game. But I do expect Falkirk will win that. I do.
Yeah.
The home advantage.
Strangely enough, you're talking about technical ability. I hate to go back to the way we started the show, but there was one moment last night in the game between Dundee United and St Mirren where Johnny Russell came on and played a simple, beautiful pass, and it was all down to first touch. It was all down to lifting his head and making a pass on a cow patch. And he got, it felt as if he got a standing ovation.
For the crowd.
And I thought to myself, oh my God, just a wee bit of quality. But I think United at times, fits and starts, set pieces, long throws. I don't know what's happened to Jim's side this season, but I can only see one winner.
The Johnny Russell factor could be a change that slightly, couldn't it? I have to say, having watched Falkirk on Saturday, you're right.
Yep. Dunfermline against Aberdeen. Boy, hey, is Neil Lennon making a real fist of it for Dunfermline, changing tactics, getting results?
Interesting team selection yesterday as well, where they rested some players. Very good victory as well. Now in top 4.
Point of order, sorry, but again, Dunfermline, Falkirk have recruited loanees from good clubs in England. And it's not going to Exeter or Gillingham. And these boys have improved the team. The two boys at Falkirk, 3 actually, have enhanced things. And they're young and they've got full of ability and confidence. The Fairman have done the same and Lennon's tapped into that market.
But he's also a good manager who's actually said to them, this is the way I want to play. The managers are key to this. This is the way I want to play. You play it.
But it's very interesting, the dynamic in that championship at the moment, how close it is, from 5th down to relegation. It's going to be a dogfight. And the politics within that league, where I saw Ayr just dropped out the top 4. So there'll be a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth about that. Are both more or less secured, the playoffs? So there's only really 2 there's only really, and Partick Thistle and St Johnstone are going to do it. So there's only one playoff place up for grabs. So that's going to be interesting because there'll be collateral damage about that.
Yeah.
But on your point, is I fancied Dunfermline and Saturday.
I see if you look at the game, Hibs went up there and obviously lost in the last round. The atmosphere is going to be the same. It's going to be absolutely packed out. I think Aberdeen have got 3,700 going up, which shows you what their fans think the only kind of basket left for the season is. They're putting all their eggs there. But I just think if Hibs couldn't handle that, approach from Dunfermline and the atmosphere up there, then Aberdeen, this version of Aberdeen, certainly aren't going to be able to handle it, and I fancy Dunfermline.
Absolutely. You don't.
All for the Pars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
St Mirren against Partick Thistle. Oh my God, what a chance for the Jags.
Exactly. I would not be shocked. I was interested in an old colleague of mine, a former colleague of mine, who was talking about St Mirren, and he was looking at it, and everybody saw they've fallen off from the League Cup final. His point was, no, they've not. The League Cup final was the outlier.
Yeah.
The game against Motherwell in the semis and the game against Celtic, they were the outlier games. The rest of the season has been really disappointing.
5 wins in 29, 9 draws, 15 losses, 4 defeats and 1 draw in the last 5 games, and they've only won 4 out of 16 games since that League Cup.
And Mark Wilson has really done a terrific job, because that was a patch-up job at Thistle as well. He didn't have a huge budget to play about with, so he's got some good talent in that team. He's got them. I think Mark's a very clever wee guy as well. And anytime he makes a change, like goes to a 3 or something like that, you can see the rationale behind it. If it doesn't work, he's the first to say, "No, it's me. It's on me." I think he's got a good wee head about him, and he's got a couple of real talents in that team. I think Stanway's I think Stanway's a talent. I think Stanway's like let's put it quite high, but he reminds me of Lewis Ferguson a bit.
Okay,
I can see what
who are you going for?
Comparison now. I fancy the Jags, I've got to say. I mean, I used to cover Thistle back in the day for the Glasgow Times, back when it was Archibald and they were riding high in the Prem, top 6 finish and all that. But it's when he was a player was the last time they were at Hampden, 2002 I think it was. And I just think they're going to do it. I think they'll have a huge crowd through there. They've got real experience with guys like Tony Watt, who I think is invaluable for them. As you say, younger guys like Stanway round about him.
You could pick any championship team against a vulnerable Premiership team this weekend and think, I fancy them.
Imagine you go for the Jags.
Yeah.
But imagine you had the semi-finals of Celtic/Rangers and Falkirk, Partick Thistle and Dunfermline. Good God.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, because then you're talking about one of those 3 teams are saying, well, we're definitely in a fight. They'll get a chance at a final.
Yeah. Just one other little footnote. We've picked the teams that we think are going to make it into it. I'm going to go St Mirren. I might as well, because the 3 of you.
I wouldn't be surprised if St Mirren
3 Jags, 1 St Mirren. Just one little footnote, and I think it deserves a longer period of time, but I thought because, in the last couple of days it was confirmed, and it's certainly something that we'll talk about in the journals in a longer period. Arsene Wenger's, suggestion that we go back to clear daylight attacker.
Mad.
Do you? Surely the game's about scoring goals.
Aye, but it's not going to change. The whole problem with offside is no offside. The whole problem with offside is waiting in a stadium 5 minutes to decide somebody's offside. That's the problem.
Yeah, but it's quicker if you've got, is it clear daylight? No, bang.
But when it's clear daylight, you're still going to get the lines.
Oh no, if there's a toe and he's on, I think it's better having the percentages of you're on than looking for ways to say you're off.
I think that's got to be the kind of thing. If there's any debate about it and you're looking at millimetres, just give the attacker the benefit of the doubt.
I like it, Patsy. Are you wanting goals? Do you want goals or do you want this?
I want a linesman putting his flag up. I want conversations in the pub after the game. It was offside, it wasn't offside. Give me it back, please. People weren't setting their hair on fire before VAR came in.
Yeah, listen.
Sorry, but
VAR's been the worst thing in my lifetime. That, without an exaggeration, the worst thing in my lifetime for football fans. And see the guys that talk well about it and that are the guys that don't pay their money at the gate and don't stand on a Saturday.
Yep.
I mean, you're at a game now and it's changed the whole reaction. You're game with your son and you go and you're going, and then your son's turning around and you go, see, about 3 hours ago, was his toe? Or was that a shy? Was that a shy?
What about the second phase of play?
I Falkirk on Saturday. And the interruptions with VAR, just for nothing's right. And Chick Young sitting, I could hear him complaining. And I turned round and said, it makes you forget that you're a war with Iran, isn't it?
Yeah.
He killed the game for periods. Stop it, enough.
Aye. Listen, the depressing thing is they're looking at expanding the scale of VAR.
They
So
will.
it's going to be involved in corner kicks, second yellow cards. It's
Going to
exact-
maybe get challenges.
Yeah.
2 challenges.
Sorry
it's
for
the
the
opposite of what
language,
they should be doing.
Well, I have to say, I don't know if it's Faulty Towers or Dad's Army. I did say to Parsley, don't mention the war, but it's in. So he's managed to get it in before the end of the programme. Just when we moaned.
Can I change my answer to the quiz question? Moving on.
When we were moaning at the start of the programme, we've ended up with Mr. Happy there reminding us of more important things on a larger scale. What about the quiz question from Elite Joinery and Fire Protection? No, you can't because you've thought of somebody else. No. So the answer, how many Scottish players started in the Old Firm game on Sunday? You said 3, you said 3, you said 3, it's 4. Yeah, so there you are.
Who's the other one?
Tierney. Tierney, Murray.
Murray. Dane Murray.
McGregor.
McGregor and Suter.
Aye.
Murray.
So there you are.
Dane Murray's the one I was missing.
Yep, so there you are, all 3 of them wrong. But did you get it? If you did, well done to you. Without cheating, of course, or Googling it or whatever. That's the answer. Thoroughly enjoyed the programme. I'm sure we'll talk at greater length about the problems of Scottish football in other journals programmes. Hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel to come and join the PLZ family as ever. We'll count down to the Scottish Cup quarterfinals in greater detail again across the next few programmes as well, if you can join us for that. And Partsy will give us one of the best reports ever from a Scottish Cup quarter-final when he's at Ibrox, hopefully, with the microphone turned on, so we can hear what he's got to say about that game. Thanks to Hugh, thanks to Graeme, thanks to Gordon, from myself, Peter Martin. Thank you for listening and watching.
The Journos is proudly sponsored by Blair Park Commercial Properties. We buy commercial and industrial property and offer rental opportunities for your business. Visit blairparkproperties.co.uk.